actually want to back us up and start a few weeks back, because a lot of people are tuning into this and saying, oh my God, Hamas just started firing rockets at Israel. This is horrifying. What would you do if rockets were fired at you? But this actually started a few weeks ago. So I want to give that background. So a few weeks ago, as Muslims began to observe the holy month of Ramadan, Israel okayed a number of home evictions, of ethnic cleansing in the East Jerusalem neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah in order to let settlers come in and take over properties from the indigenous Palestinian population. Then Israel blockaded, put up barricades outside Damascus Gate, the main gate that Palestinian Muslims enter through to get to the old holy city, and that is so important to them during the month of Ramadan. Then Israel allowed Kahanists. Now, for anybody who doesn't know what Kahanism is, it's the equivalent of the Jewish KKK. It is so right-wing, so extremist, so racist that they were banned at one point from Israeli Knesset and were listed by the U.S. State Department as a terrorist organization. So Israel allowed a Death to Arabs Kahanist march through Jerusalem. Then Israel shot at, with tear gas, stun grenades, and skunk water, a chemical foul-smelling water that stays on you for days, at the Palestinians who tried to protest the Kahanist Jewish KKK march. As though that wasn't enough, they went on to continue these evictions in Sheikh Jarrah and to attack the Palestinian youth who tried to peacefully prevent their families from being forcefully removed from their homes. That wasn't enough for them. So during the holiest night of the year for Muslims, when Muslims go to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Israel barged into the mosque to fire tear gas and stun grenades inside the mosque.
Yeah, there's shocking.
Not going so well.
There's shocking video that's been going viral on Twitter of flashbang grenades going off inside a mosque. I mean, one of the holiest mosques. It's crazy.
On the holiest night of the year, the Al-Aqsa Mosque is actually the holiest mosque, the third holiest site in Islam. Then it gets worse. So planned 2 days later for that was Jerusalem Day. This is a day where Israel celebrates the theft of East Jerusalem from the Palestinians in 1967. And what happens on this day traditionally is that the Israeli right-wing Kahanist extremists march through Jerusalem with their Israeli flags. It's called the Flag March, and they march through Damascus Gate and invade the Al-Aqsa compound with the support and protection of Israeli police. So this is what was going on in the background. Now, what happened in the midst of this is that there started to be enough outrage worldwide about what was happening, that Israel was not allowing freedom of worship, that Israel was firing on Palestinian worshipers inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And there was a lot of pushback and a lot of Palestinian protest, most of it peaceful. Israel kind of realized that they had let the genie out of the bottle a bit too much. You know, you had statements coming from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, from Jamal Bowman, saying you cannot evict these families from Sheikh Jarrah. So Israel actually, temporarily only, but they did pull back and put a temporary halt on the Sheikh Jarrah protests, and they realized that they had created this tinder keg, and so they said, all right, the right-wing Kahanist fascists cannot march through Damascus Gate and cannot actually go to the Al-Aqsa compound this time, and then the march got canceled. So it actually was quite a large win in some ways. And I have to say, I am not a fan of Hamas's decision at that point. So Hamas made a decision at that point to fire rockets at Jerusalem.
To those who don't really follow this stuff, can you explain what Hamas is? Because I think a lot of people think, oh, it's just a terrorist group that tries to kill civilians.
Hamas is actually the legitimate government in Gaza. Like I said, I am no fan of Hamas, but they are the legitimate elected government inside of Gaza. Gaza is an open-air prison. It has been an open-air prison for the past 14 years. It is under siege by land, sea, and air, by Israel as well as Egypt. And as you said, they get only 4 hours of electricity a day. This is a place where youth unemployment is over 50%, where drinking water is safe drinking water is difficult to obtain. This is a very difficult situation. This also comes in the context of the Palestinian elections that were supposed to take place, and it comes in the context of the Palestinian Authority, who really is a subcontractor of the Israeli government, and Hamas as rivals. Now, this election got canceled because Abbas in the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority, really didn't want to give himself an opportunity to lose. But this rivalry continues. And as not enough was done by the Palestinian Authority to protect Al-Aqsa Mosque and the worshippers, Hamas did step in at this point and said, if Israel does not remove all of its forces from the Al-Aqsa compound, we are going to start firing on Jerusalem. Now, this is an unrealistic ultimatum, given who Israel is. They're certainly not going to pull back their military. They love their military.
That we fund and arm.
That we fund and arm. And so sure enough, Hamas did fire rockets onto Jerusalem. They didn't land in Jerusalem. Nobody was injured. Nothing occurred from that. And Israel could have said, all right, let's give another win. Let's just sit this one out and let tension simmer. Let's not respond for once. But Israel did not. And since then, we have another really all-out war between Israel and Gaza.